Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about bands and how you can use them to improve your deck. So I'm using the spreadsheet. I'll drop a link to it in either the description or the comments. This kind of just helps you see with what defenders are causing you issues in, a more measurable way, um, rather than just banning whatever defenders you're not comfortable fighting, which is also a valid way to go about it, just whatever defenders are going to give you the most issues. But one of the things that I like to do with banning defenders is this lets you have a bit of a lopsided deck, which can be very effective. My deck has, I think, 9 skill champions in it at this point, which is, a way you can really nuke almost everything. And one of the ways my deck is able to function while being so lopsided is, yes, there are some pretty clear weaknesses. All of these are pretty clear weaknesses. I guess Kingpin and Cord kind of, I'm about as weak against those as everybody else. But, all of these are pretty clear weaknesses in my deck. But my deck is able to function while still having those weaknesses because I use these bans to allow myself to not need specific counters to fights and to just fully load up on general nukes. No, there are specific counters that I still have. I've got Rinshra, Doom, Ibom, and Nimrod, who are like the fantastic ones, who are like, specific attackers for what they're used on for attack. But, just removing those general, specific counters that you might not really want to have in the deck can go a long way. And using your bans in a way that can make your deck stronger like this is a really effective way to improve your deck, because every deck will have weaknesses. So if you can just lean into those weaknesses and just ban the problems and then make your deck super strong at what it does well at, this is a very effective way to get a really strong deck. I've been doing this a lot. This can also apply to banning attackers, though. Obviously, not everyone wants to just ban defenders. And you want to go for banning nukes for a more reliable strategy, which is perfectly understandable. But you can also use the same principle if you want to go for a strategy of banning a bunch of attackers. Whereas, instead of just banning X and Y, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna ban Torch, and I'm gonna load up my deck with some Science Champions, so I'm better at killing the opponent's Mystics. Then they're gonna be better at killing my Mystics, and you're gonna also load up with Mystic Defenders, of course, that's self-explanatory. You can do similar with, banning Archangel, and then you're gonna, put Reed, Ibom, Nick Fury, Rintra, all of these, and then you're gonna put the best counters to all of these defenders that you generally need Archangel for in your deck, and just be better at that specific niche and try and force your opponents into that niche with those attacker bans, and that can work extremely well. But the basic message I want to get across with this is just try and use your bans in a way that can improve your deck overall. Banning just general strong champions is an effective way to go about it, but you can do both, where you ban strong champions and then also ban them in a way that just makes your deck a lot better. I have a Domino ban. Because I, as you can see, have very few actual counters to Domino in my deck, and I just suck at fighting Dominoes. That's a bit of a personal preference one. So instead of trying to load up with better counters to Domino, I just ban Domino. And this lets the rest of my deck be stronger, be more lopsided, which can be very effective. Struggling against, Herc. He's one of those where you really want a handful of counters that can do well against Herc on defense, and I don't have many of those in my deck right now because I'm leaning towards an anti-Mystic deck since I'm not banning Torch. For my own deck, this makes Herc a very good ban, and of course Herc is ridiculous on attack as well. But yeah, it's a fairly simple principle of using your bans to improve your deck overall. But there's a lot of nuance between it, and if you do it extremely effectively, you can get a deck to where it's just so many nukes, and where all of the counters that you're having in your deck have other purposes than just being counters to X and Y. You know, at my deck at this point, the only one I really want to remove of these is Elsa, and maybe Toad, but Toad does have a lot of defensive value that is quite nice. And using this strategy of just using bans to strengthen the rest of my deck has made it so I'm pretty much always almost able to nuke something, which is a very effective way of going about it. And yeah, I really have been enjoying using the strategy of just using bans to improve my deck overall, and you know, it's a very lopsided deck. I'm basically repeating myself, but yeah, very effective, simple idea, but there's definitely a lot of nuance between the bans and what you want to go for. There's a lot of merit to banning both attackers and defenders. I've found more success with how strong my nukes are in banning defenders and just killing full nuke, trying to out nuke the opponents. And one of the things that does come with banning defenders is you are going to leave strong nukes open, and I'm going to talk about this further in a defensive video when I go over some defensive strategies. But what I've done for my deck is I've limited the amount of defenders that you're going to be taking with like Tigra or Torch or CGR, and this basically means that my Tigra, my Torch, my CGR is almost always going to be more valuable than the opponent's Tigra or Torch or CGR, which is a really nice way to avoid having to do those nuke bans. And yeah, that's all for this video. Hope you guys can take this principle and improve your deck with it.